Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I have Dawn Leader here again with me. Dawn, say hi. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
We are in a 5-part series. This is part 3 of soul aligned living. And we were just chatting earlier and we were talking about fear and how fear is teaching us throughout our journey. That's going to be part 4. So stay tuned for that, because part 3 today is all about, I'm going to say, blending the masculine and feminine energies of really when we leave or transition from hyper masculine structure and focus into more flow and unstructure, how we navigated that, what challenges have we faced, what does that mean for us, etc. So before we get started, Dawn, do you want to do a brief introduction again? Tell everyone who you are.
Sure. I'm Dawn Leader, and I just in December officially left my corporate position as a senior VP and chief operations officer. My background is financial and IT administration. And I last year was totally called to align with my soul. And so I'm here to help people find their alignment with their soul journey, find their way back to loving themselves and harmonious living.
I'm excited just hearing you say that. And that's why we're collaborating. That's why we're teaming up together. So hi, everyone. In case you don't know who I am, Kelly Geisler Wilson. I am a business coach for Soulpreneurs. So I really help soulpreneurs build their heart, soul, energy aligned business so that they can make a greater impact, receiving financial abundance and success and prosperity while they're doing it. So if you want to tune in, I'll post a link below on part 1 and part 2. Dawn and I have been, I love it when the universe bings while we're talking. Dawn and I have been talking about our journey so far, what we experienced in 2021. What were our symptoms of living in misalignment, if you will? What catapulted us forward to taking those scary steps to leaving behind our corporate identities and really saying yes to soul aligned living. So we hung up last week, and her and I, of course, continue to chat. We started talking about the shift of structured living to unstructured living is really to sum it up. So Dawn, do you want to kick us off and just kind of highlight your journey so far from leaving from structure to being in charge of your own structure?
Yeah. So I had this grand plan, right? That I gave my notice. I was going to take a month off. I was going to take a 2-week vacation and relax and rejuvenate. And then I was going to do 2 weeks to create my new life, right? At least get it launched. And maybe 3 days after I gave my resignation, I connected with this amazing group called Sienna Moon. And they were opening a new retail space and metaphysical healing center, place of finding your power and stepping into your truth kind of place. And so I sent him a message and said, hey, that sounds like me. I want to see if I can be part of that. So I did not get 2 weeks vacation. I got 3 days. And my corporate world asked me to work part-time. So I worked part-time. A week into my part-time work, I stepped into starting to do my soul aligned work part-time. And so it's just actually since the holidays that I'm done with my corporate world, just before the holidays. And I've stepped into creating this program. So I did give myself some space through the holidays. And now in January, it's cold and winter. And it's like, how do we maneuver this, right? I'm staying up later. I'm sleeping in a little bit. Mm-hmm. And every day I'm kind of tuning into the flow of what wants to reveal itself, right? Like every morning, not that I didn't do this before, but my morning meditation has shifted where instead of trying to find an alignment with enough energy to move into my unaligned life,
Mm.
I'm aligning with what's alive and what's moving within me for the day. And sometimes that's fear, or sometimes that's a lot of emotions. And sometimes it's product development, program development. Sometimes it's, um, calls. It is really finding the flow of the day, which is really the more feminine way, right? And so it's aligning in the morning. I do have a little basic kind of structure to my week that is really supportive of me, and then each day I find my inspired action through that finding the flow. So
I took several notes that I want to talk with you about. So I'll just share my journey a little bit. June 1st was the first day of my Soulpreneur life. And within a month, I have shared before, like I just stopped everything. It just still fell dramatically out of alignment. And it was, getting your feet wet and trying to, it was like unleashing from one version of you to a brand new one. And you need to get your footings and and figure out how you're going to navigate each day. And what ended up happening was pretty much July and August, I just surrendered. I just let go. I had my kids in the summertime, and I fully wanted to be present with them. Was 18 months into COVID. We've been through the ringer at my house, and I just wanted to be really fully present with them. So I would have to say, so there was a 2-week struggle of I should be producing mentality to just give up, Kelly, because this is not quality. This is hustle and trying to be present. So, I gave up, and what transpired for me was just clarity, quantum leaping, and so really, I hit the ground running, I would say September 1 when my kids went back to school, and so now I'm being thoughtful and planning ahead next summer. I want to also, be uber present and uber available with my kiddos, but I have certainly also have been having this, like, where's my rhythm? And like this morning, I looked at my calendar and now I look at the blank spaces on my calendar and now start blocking things off because there are some things that I need to get done, right? And I have deadlines. So I need things to get done. And I'm blocking off space on my calendar because I'll find myself having so much momentum, so much passion that I just want to work, 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 work. That's my style. That's my human design. When I'm passionate, I go all in. And I still have to step back and unplug. Otherwise, my energy system and my body can't maintain that for long periods of time. So I like Friday, I planned a day off and it was amazing. I will also say that I've been making a conscious effort that whenever I take a day off, I throw the baton to the universe and said, "Okay, partner, business partner, your day to work. I'm taking the day off." And that's just my way of, okay, like leaning into the universe. But what I wanted to say was, I'm going to ask you this question because I have a couple more. So let's take a step back. What has been your relationship with hustle?
so I was always hustling,
I was gonna say, so
right?
that's what we're learning to unwind right now is
Right.
the relationship with the hustle.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down as you were talking, was that's been a big piece of it, is unlearning busyness,
Yeah.
right? Is to really stay committed. So in the time where went part-time in my corporate job, I had it kind of planned out. It was going to be 2.5 days and it was going to be these specific times, and that's not in alignment with me. I really am a flow person. I really
Mhm.
like to work when I want to work. And that might be 6 a.m. or it might be 10 p.m. And so I had to take the structure out and also stay committed to myself and not overgive. So I started to work in that unlearning of that busyness by creating some structure, right?
Yeah.
By having the inspiration to work when the passion was there or the need was there or it felt aligned to do so. And then in my personal life, I really needed to, because a lot of things had fallen by the wayside in my home, working so many hours. And so there I also had to start to create a little structure, like some timing, like, oh, we're going to clean out this closet,
Mhm.
in these 3 hours versus go
Mhm.
all hands in and think I
Mhm.
was going to get it done because I'm starting to value the space and my time. The space is what creates the inspiration, and
Mhm.
that's the feminine, right? The creative space. And I had not given myself space in my former life.
And the space creates the receptivity. If you are going, 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 there's just no room for receiving inspiration to come in. I took off last Friday and really, so that also for me looks like walking the dog and not tuning into a video or an audio on learning and educate. It's
Mhm,
really unplugging in in
mhm,
in being in the being phase versus the doing phase. And then I would say after a couple, and it was interesting. It took me probably 4 hours to let go of that. I need to be moving in constant moving phase. And then I finally like just opened into the being and inspiration then started hitting. So I was making notes of all that until I was finally in the neutral area of just presence and being. I'll say that I've also very recently started asking myself, am I allowing the masculine to guide me? So really also taking note again to say, I've created a lot of flow. Have I created too much flow? Have I created too much listening to inspiration versus I do still have to get a few things done? So I have been asked, am I allowing the masculine to guide me? So I love the visual of a river in a riverbank. The flowing river is the feminine, the riverbank, the riverbed is the masculine. The masculine guides the feminine flow. And so I think I have an opportunity of fine tuning it and just being a little bit more proactive and a little bit more structured to guide my flow a little better, especially some of the things that I have up in a couple months. And I want to say, I love what you said of I'm time boxing this. I have 2 hours to dedicate to this, and that's enough. Like that is a really good technique to stop that hustle. I worked for 8 hours today. That is enough. Or
mhm,
Fridays, I usually work 4 hours and then I do a lot of radical self love in the Friday afternoons. That's enough. You know,
mhm.
and reframing. So this is a new thing I'm walking into, reframing what generating money or making money looks like. I've been making a lot of money in my sleep lately. And that's just me creating evidence of I don't have to hustle in order to make money. I can make money while I sleep. And noting that evidence of there's proof right there that I'm making money while I sleep versus I'm making money while I'm hustling.
Right. The For me, it was a lot of even learning what that all of that was for me, right? Like, where does dawn fit into this life?
Mhm.
What do I want to do? What do I want to eat? What do
Yeah.
I want to wear? How do I want to present myself, right? Like, there has been a lot of that because I feel like for a long time we were so in this um, a lot of people would say go with the flow, but it really was go with a structure, right? Like it had become some kind of structure that we weren't necessarily comfortable with, right? And so I'm noticing how there's some shifting in my clothes, right? There's some shifting in my foods. There's definitely shifting when I eat, right? Like I used to eat a bar, drink a protein shake on my drive into the office, right? Um, and now I can tell you, I have a 3/4 of the way drank protein shake on my desk next to us, right? And we're already at noon. So there is some of that, like you become discombobulated that, you might not brush your teeth till noon, because you're not going to see anyone. And there's beauty in that, right? Allowing that really to unfold. I really had to allow all of this to unfold. I had to give myself space. I like to manage and control things. I like to know where I'm headed and what I'm doing. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that next time, I think. And really surrendering to that discombobulation process. Like you took 2 months in the summer to be present with your kids. And I also know you still were sending out posts. You still did some newsletter type of thing. You were still doing some things to generate you being able to launch in September, right?
Right.
And I'm still in that space, right? I'm still like I have coaches too, and I'm a little bit in that space of, hey, you guys don't push me too much because I need some space yet. I'm still decompressing. I'm still in the process of unraveling fear and stress and limiting beliefs and how I've kept myself small. All of that is still rising up all the time as I'm stepping forward in really finding what patterns work for me, what flexibility works for me, so it's a lot of trial and error too, right? Like yesterday, I didn't do much of anything at all. And probably, I can't tell you, a dozen times I went in my head, it was like, oh, you should be doing something else, right? Go sit down for an hour and brainstorm about this idea, go, go clean out a different closet, go, like I brought home, 3 boxes of things from my office. Well, do I really want any of those things? I'm going to look at those this afternoon. But yesterday I had to kind of keep refocusing myself. This is my day of relaxation. This is my day to just be and not be thinking about the future, really being present.
So you hit the nail on the head. And I think this deserves highlighting and talking about, again, part 2 of our video series. We talked about doing business differently. And even when you mentioned the coaching program that you're in, I think moving from a very hyper-focused hustle, toxic masculine culture, you can name any of those in corporate. And I love that when you said going with the flow, I was going to say going with expectation, because it really was like the robotic expectation of this is what it is. And you don't get to really feel or be part of it. You just execute, you just show up. But I think what I heard you say was working looks differently. And my working those first couple of months, and even I would even say 6 months, even now, looks different. you're working, like you said, you're working right now, and you're working on undoing your limiting beliefs and facing your fears and all that other stuff. And so really questioning and, drawing that line in the sand and saying, work looks different for me now. So the expectation of other people still saying, anyone, it can be a group, it can be your significant other, saying you're not putting in the hours, thus you're not working. Working looks different for soulpreneurs, I believe, which is being is working, self-care, self-love, facing your limiting beliefs, all contribute to the work and the impact that you are generating in this world. So, and taking that time off is generating your energy and taking care of your body, and then creating those new inspirations and new passions to move ahead. So we are working. We are redefining what work looks like.
Yeah, we really, a big, I think when people change jobs, you may not address some of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just going from one way of doing things to a little bit of a different way of doing things. And so I think, Kelly, you and I really have this passion to help people uncover their soul's alignment. And I have to say, like, my soul alignment is being a vessel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am a vessel for the universe to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And however that shows up. And part of that for me is, and we should do another part on the receiving end of things, right? Because receiving is so different. You touched on that. You're receiving during the night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last week, I worked one day on receiving in ways I can't even believe, right? Ways I have no idea but the universe on how to send things to me. And part of that practice was just receiving the sunshine. Here in
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin, it's a cloudy, gloomy day. And so when we have sunny days, just really spending extra time. And I was spending a lot of extra time with the sun and opening to new ways of receiving. And by the end of the day, I had gotten a beautiful message from someone who I have known for a while, not intimately. And he's asked me like to model jewelry for him.
Ooh.
And he's offered to make like some custom pieces for me. And I'm like, who would ever? It was never in my head, right? That I would have received in that way. Right? Like, so it really, like, it's all this unraveling is a huge part of this. And anyone who's brave and courageous enough to step out here with us and do that, that's what's going to shift the world, right? Like, that whole masculine paradigm that as women, especially, we have subjected ourselves to in the corporate world of, setting goals and having to meet goals and having conversations that were uncomfortable and were only aligned with bottom lines or budgets or deadlines, timelines, all of those things, not taking into consideration where people were landing with it all. That's all shifting. That's all changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, that's even I remember corporate goal setting that was all masculine, that was repressing the feminine. There was nothing what was emerging. It was identify these 3 things, these 5 steps to do it, and to prove that you reached it and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the receiving, and in order to receive, slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to invite everyone that's listening. There's a couple of my favorite ways to slow down and that are like ninja tricks. Eat food more slowly. Instead of, like Dawn just said, she's now drinking her protein shake for 4 hours instead of 10 minutes in the car. I love parking. I always park far away. Almost always park far away from a store that I'm going to, because why not? No one ever fights for the far away parking spot. So it's like a more peaceful choice. And then just walk slowly into the store. There's no reason to rush. And even those little small ninja moves, receiving is also meditation and breath work, going for walks, just sitting in the sun a little bit longer, journaling and receiving. I mean, there's so many different ways. And I like Dawn's idea about talking receiving. I guess I just wanted to throw in about the ninja moves. I like to eat slower and I like to move slower because I'm a fast person.
Yeah. I went to the grocery store in the last couple weeks and I just really browsed because I wanted to make dinner and I wanted to make something I was inspired to make, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how many of us kind of have Taco Tuesday and Fish Fry Friday and right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we kind of have the same foods on some days. I don't as much anymore without kids at home. And I just wanted to, wow, I just browsed at the grocery store and I was amazed. I was like, I can't remember the last time I didn't go in with a list on task to get what I needed to get and get out. And part of that, right, is COVID. Like none of us
Yeah.
want to necessarily spend a ton of time in the grocery store if we don't need to. And the other part for me was I walked out of there just amazed because I noticed things that I hadn't noticed. So
Mhm. What I'm also hearing you say is, I'm going to tie this back to human design. And I wonder if this is true for you. It sounds like your sacral's getting ignited and lit up a little more. And even going to the grocery store to find out what inspires you is a great sacral activity to just listening and fortifying that relationship of what's lighting you up, what's lighting you up. 70% of the planet is a sacral being. So 70% of us has this sacral yes, no, passion, lit up energy. And would you say, I mean, I think that was part of my journey last year was how much have I repressed my sacral by not doing the things that lit me up?
yeah, for sure. I think I had felt so uninspired for a couple years. And before that, I was always inspired. I was always, finding programs to offer or take. And I felt like I had really gotten stuck. And part of that was from unexpressed emotions that were stuck in both my physical body and in my etheric bodies, right? So it was really hard to get to my sacral response when there were
Yep.
so many unprocessed emotions,
Mm-hmm.
so many emotions that had been kind of set aside to get through the day.
Yeah. And going for a while of not even paying attention, like not having that relationship, not listening, dims it, right? Just dims it and says, you're focused on other things right now. I'm not going to talk to you as much, or you're not going to listen to me. And so practicing doing what lights you up in the grocery store. I also went to Kohl's yesterday. I had to take something back. And I was so proud of myself because I didn't buy anything, but I was looking like I was just like, how am I feeling walking and seeing these clothes and seeing these colors, and was practicing more of like feeling each of the fabrics that were around me. It was kind of a fun experience too. So that's quite a coincidence that we both did that in the past couple days.
I thought, gosh, I've got to go to the mall. What will I notice if I haven't been to a mall in a couple of years, right? What will I notice if I go to a mall?
I love it. It's a road trip. We're taking it on the road trip. That would be fun. All right. So, anything else? Do you have any other notes written down from our conversations? I think I had one, and then actually, I wrote one more.
Can I, before you say
Yep.
that, in regards to the sacral response, I think too, like I know I can witness a time where I had intuition and a sacral response, and I ignored it because I didn't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like at that point in time, I started to self doubt my sacral response, right? And so if you had, I would say if people had some kind of trauma or some kind of intuitive hit that was really uncomfortable for them, and we touched briefly last time on how self-care or self-love isn't always comfortable. You know, when we have those responses that we don't really like,
Yeah.
and we aren't practiced
Right.
in those uncomfortable conversations.
Yep. And what I see this a lot in my clients, and it's really a form of self-abandonment. And
Yeah.
a lot of us have abandonment wounds, and then to come to find out we are continuing to abandon ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, we think we have this experience with other people, and we do, but then we look at how we behave and we treat ourselves, and we're abandoning ourselves. And
Yeah.
so we're repressing the sacral energy and the alignment that our soul so desperately wants, because it's scary, because
Mhm.
of the fear that we're going to talk about next week, because of being different. Ooh, we can talk about that one next week too.
Right.
You know, there's so many reasons why. I thank you for sharing that. That is, that's a core, I'm going to say a core wound. I've had a lot of conversations around that with my clients and even with myself.
Yeah.
The last thing I was going to add was, I guess it was piggybacking on what I had said before, that work in a soul aligned way, in an energy aligned way, in a balanced feminine and masculine way will look nonlinear. It won't look logical. It won't look step 1, 2, 3, 4 will get you to your end result. And giving just really permission, you know, your mind will go, but I need to do this, you know. And again, that opening of, but today my body wants to sit in the sun for 4 hours, or I'm going to take a super long nature hike. And really reclassifying again of, who am I to judge that that's work or not work? It's what I was called to do. You know, I've worked so hard in my intuition to know that I am not, you know, this is divine guidance, and I'm taking inspired action. So who am I to say that I'm not working, you know, or I'm, you know, I'm
Right.
showing up in my business the way I should be showing up in my business? And I think I've struggled or have danced that dance a couple months, you know, of just saying, this is the new path I'm on, and it's a very nonlinear path forward. And again, it's unwinding and rewiring what work looks like, and
Yeah.
emotion look like.
I agree with you. And the inspired action could be wait,
Yes.
right? Like the inspired action might be to wait. And I don't know that in the corporate world we are ever given permission on, you know, in that way. And especially if you're an emotional sacral authority like
Yep.
I am,
Me too.
like you might have to wait a long time to get clarity, right? Um, and that can be really uncomfortable when you are used to managing people and having to make decisions quickly, and you know, kind of being the firefighter, where like me, I was the firefighter. I was handling the crises all the time. And as an emotional sacral authority, that's not really the way I should work,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I really, the thing I enjoyed the most about my last position was the flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I could work whenever I wanted to work, and that is the way I like to work. I'm happy to work on a Sunday when I'm inspired to work, or early in the morning before, you know, people wake up, or later in the day. Um, yeah, I love working when I'm inspired to.
When you're in response and it's energetically correct for you,
Right.
right? And I will say, so I just have an example of what you said. I would say last September, early October, I knew launching a podcast was in my future. I just knew it, but it was not a yes. Energetically, it was not a yes for me. So I am an emotional sacral being as well. And it was just like, it's still a pause. It's there, but the timing isn't correct yet. And the timing was correct 2 weeks ago because it wasn't meant to be a podcast. It was meant to be a YouTube channel. And it makes total sense to me on how that transpired. Part of it is because of the video, the connection piece of it, the kitchen piece of it. You know what I'm talking about with that. And so anyways, I waited for 3 months for the yes. And I'm like, I know it's there. I know it's there. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And, it finally came. So it was finally at a point where just sitting back and going, okay, I'll know when it's a yes. Like you're revving your engines for 3 months, ready to see the green light.
Yeah. I have an example of how I started to move forward where I wasn't aligned, right?
Yeah.
So, middle of December, I started to move forward, create a program, create a class offering. And I had in my head a vision, and I talked to someone else, and they kind of were like, well, let's do it this way. And so I responded, and I knew, though, I was never completely aligned with it. And I didn't really promote it. I didn't really get it kicked off. And finally, a week after the class was supposed to start, I went back to them and I was like, I'm not aligned, right? Like, I'm not aligned. This is my vision of what I saw for this. I felt like in competition with another collaborative business partner. It didn't move. It didn't launch. It didn't go anywhere. And so there was also that unlearning, right? Like to pivot quickly, to really stand more fully in my truth and move with it the way that I'm being guided to move with it, because it won't go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we've said yes to for our soul aligned businesses. Absolutely. So I think in closing, thank you, Dawn, because this is going to kind of kick us into next week. We're going to talk about fear. If we're not moving into action, when there's not alignment, it could be that it's not the correct timing. It could be that it's not in alignment. It could be also related to fears that are blocking us. We're going to go in next week to the fears, what we've done to support ourselves. And really, I, for myself, created daily habits to face my fears, to identify my fears, and then transform and transmute my fears. So that's next week. If you want to get a hold of us, we would love to have a conversation with you. Dawn and I are incredibly passionate about the work that we do, about having more conversations like this. I think they have been lighting me up. They are needed. They're on purpose. They're of value, I hope, and inspire others to look at their lives to see how can they shift to live in a more soul-aligned way. So, Dawn, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect with you?
So the best way to connect with me is through personal message. You can reach me through Facebook, through personal message, Instagram. I don't check as often, and I'm starting to dive into that again. Or you can always send me an email, and I will take that in the comments below.
Yeah. And for me, on DM as well, and email kelly@thebutterflyguide.com. We'll list everything below. I'm also, and I'll speak on behalf of Dawn as well, I also would love to have a 20-minute coffee chat, Zoom chat with anyone that just wants to have a conversation. And I put that out there because, with COVID the past 2 years, we are kind of more self-contained, and it requires effort to connect with people. Thankfully, my COVID experience has been, I've connected with more people since COVID because we connect through Zoom, where I used to have to drive an hour to work, drive back, show up at work, be fully present. And all this space that COVID has given me has connected more. So anyone that wants to have a conversation with Dawn or I, or happy to even have it together, I'll throw that out there. Reach out to us. We would love to be in conversation, grab a virtual cup of coffee or tea, and to explore together. Right?
Yeah, I'd love to collaborate and see how we can all work together.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're looking forward to your comments and feedback. If you have questions about next week's topic that you'd like us to answer, please drop it below. And if not, we'll connect with you next week, Monday. Take care.
Bye.